Yes. Hello there. My name's Jake. Thank you for pressing play. So, what we have coming along here is a reading of a couple of chapters from my vintage novelette, The Nice Adventures of Derek the Homosexual Gerbil, which I blustered into existence during the 90s from the age of 13. It's very rude. I wrote this bit around 1995 when I was 15, and it incorporates one of my favourite pieces of school homework, which was for RE, when Miss Cummins asked us to come up with a short story about a religious experience. So I composed a rather eccentric escapade called Stupid Bloody Albert, not based on any experience. And this so delighted the teacher that she read it out to the class, which was lovely. But this momentous moment of deliverance was destabilised somewhat midway by the school bell thrumming for the afternoon break. And although Miss Cummins valiantly and very kindly completed her performance, I couldn't help but sense the growing discontent around the classroom as everyone wanted my marvellous shit story to end so they could be excused. So I felt it deserved another outing, and so not long after, I crudely plunged it within the ludicrous narrative of my gay gerbil. This salacious gerbil story, which has kept me very busy for decades, as I've been developing it into an epic novel, which is almost nearing completion, and updates can be found on my website, niceadventures.net. From its inception, this work has always intended to be performed. I used to read it out to friends at school, and I've done a few public readings at various places over the years. So I'm very keen to develop a complete audiobook, actually, and this is the prototype. This is the first time I've actually recorded any of this properly like this, so any reactions or constructive feedback will be very welcome. Okay, right, let's do this. Here we go. The Nice Adventures of Derek the Homosexual Gerbil by Jake Wyatt. Yes. The 43rd of the chapters. Whilst licking himself dry in the way Derek seemed able, he suddenly discovered he had an amazing talent for writing. So, with no wasted second, he sat down the next morning and wrote his first short story. Stupid Bloody Albert by Derek the Homosexual Gerbil. Once upon a time, there was an Albert, and one day he had a very strange visitor that appeared before him in his bathroom. "Hello, Albert," the strange visitor said. "Why, hello," Albert replied. "How nice to meet you." "Right," the strange visitor continued. "I have a message from God. You must invent an amazing gadget that can bring him down to earth when you die." "Oh, right you are. Thank you. Goodbye, strange visitor." And with that, the strange visitor disappeared, going back to the strange place he came from. Later that night, Albert had completed making his amazing gadget, so went and had some toast. The weird thing was, Albert never usually had toast. The gadget would bring God down to earth when Albert died, so Albert had to die. This wouldn't be long, however, as his doctor said he wasn't in the best of health. Albert, pleased at this thought, slouched down in his armchair and waited to die. 14 minutes later, his heart stopped beating. Albert smiled. "Oh, bravo!" he cried. "I'm going to die at last." He was wrong, though. A small electronic signal bounced from Albert's heart over to a green box next to Albert's blue box on the kitchen table. This in turn became active and shot a clever radio-type signal over to the hospital 5 miles away. Doctors here, alarmed at the alarm, alarmed their subordinates, who in turn alarmed the caretaker, an old man of 102, who rushed outside to his skateboard and zoomed over to Albert's house with emergency resuscitation equipment. He got there, strangely, 2 minutes before the bleeper thing, so he had time to think. When the bleeper thing went off, the caretaker jumped in through the window and resuscitated Albert. "Oh, pooh to you," Albert cried. "Can't you just let me die, please?" "Certainly," said the caretaker, and thrust his hand into Albert's chest and yanked out his beating heart. Next, he pulled a pin from behind his ear and popped the heart. Blood and slime flew around the room and ruined many of Albert's 11th century brass monkey plant pots. Albert was dead, and most happy, as he had fulfilled God's wishes. In heaven, he went to reception, where he met a very sexy lady, wearing a giant orange peel. "Hello, I have an appointment with God," he said to her. I'm taking him down to earth. Is he ready?" "Yes," the woman replied. She had a weird sort of kinky German accent. She reminded Albert of his mum. "Right, where is he?" "Behind the door," she said, and pointed to a door. "Thank you, you're very kind." "Yes, and you are very sexy." "Oh, well, thank you. You're not too bad yourself." "Thank you. Thank you so very much." "Right, bye." And Albert headed for the door. "Please come back. I want to fondle your buttocks." But Albert was gone. Albert covered his eyes from the bright light in front of him. "Is that you, God?" He couldn't hear a reply. "God, could you turn that light off, please?" A fart? Did God just fart? Oh, no. Albert didn't realize how nervous he was. "Sorry," he said after a while. "That was me. Sorry."
"Do you have the amazing gadget that will take me down to Earth?" God boomed.
"Well, yes," Albert said, a warm liquid dribbling down his leg. "I've got it right here."
"Switch it on."
"It needs batteries. I forgot to put some in."
"There are some in the drawer behind you,"
God shouted, and some drawers appeared behind Albert. Yup, right. Switching on now." The bright light went out, and Albert felt himself falling, as if he were falling back down to earth. He opened his eyes and saw he was falling back down to earth. Falling beside him was his amazing gadget. He grabbed it and put it in his special zip-up pocket so he wouldn't lose it. This was great, he thought to himself. He could only remember one other time he'd experienced something like this, but he had a parachute on then. He wondered how he would land. Well, he had ages yet, so he decided not to worry about it. God would probably be on Earth by now, Albert decided. Yes, he'd be shopping. But what could God buy that he didn't already have? A motorbike? A television? With the whole satellite package, of course. Albert could see the ground better now the clouds had gone. He decided to put on his Superman outfit, so people on Earth would say silly things like, "Look, is that a bird? Or is it an aeroplane? No, it's Superman. Ooh!" But it would just be Albert. He thought that would fool them. Too late. Albert landed, and right in the middle of a "Make the Biggest Haystack" competition. Although, unfortunately, not on one of the haystacks. Albert apologised to the farmer he landed on and went on his merry way. Later that day, when he got home, he looked in the evening newspapers to see if God had made any appearance. Shocked was he when he saw that on the front page of every newspaper was a picture of a raging hurricane that was swishing around Australia, ripping apart everything in its path. He read the article and found that scientists studying the wind had discovered that there were life signs in the wind. Absolutely billions of them. Probably some kind of tiny flying creatures that were devouring the planet. To get the immense shock out of his system, he went to have his monthly bath. After that, he went to bed as he didn't want to do anything else. Over the next few days, Albert followed the story on television and in newspapers. The hurricane was moving from Australia over Japan, through Russia, down to Africa, around and up and all over America, across places around Greenland, over to Norway, then down to France and Germany. Scientists predicted that England would be the last place it would visit. Albert was beginning to get a bit worried. He didn't really mind dying again, it was just he didn't really like the way he was going to die. He suddenly remembered God was somewhere on Earth. Oh, he was probably having fun in a hot country or... Wait, all the hot countries of the world had been destroyed. So he must be in England. Yes, having tea with the Queen. Or playing cricket, though he might... Just a moment. Maybe God was the hurricane. No one else had thought of that before. Although no one else knew God was on Earth. Why would God be killing everyone and everything? Albert didn't know, but this didn't surprise him as he didn't know much. Suddenly, a teapot fell on Albert's head, and in the moment of confusion, he had another of his weird experiences. He went into a trance and began to quote Dickens. When he woke, it was all clear. Dr. Oswald tore the letter open and looked at the contents. A badly written, scribbled letter. He read it. This was a fascinating suggestion. He rung up his favourite colleague, Professor Nigel, and explained the idea and asked him to come over. 15 minutes later, both men were together, with recent photos and scans of the hurricane and details of its development. "Yes, I see. This theory could be correct. It would explain a lot. This graph from today shows how the life signs have increased tremendously."
Yes, by, about 50 billion.
"And the latest estimates are that about 5.1 billion people, 38.3 billion animals, and 6.6 billion trees and shrubberies have died in the path of the hurricane."
Yes.
Right.
It's all starting to add up.
Yes, this hurricane is an accumulation
of life force. Or afterlife force. And it's no hurricane. This letter says it's God. And he's really, really pissed off. Dear diary, I've made a right cock-up. The university wrote back, thanking me for my letter, and that I was right. This is the dawn of heaven on earth. I haven't told anyone yet, as they'd all blame me for getting God here in the first place. Well, it is my fault, really. I really am a dumb prat. But, dearest diary, I, Albert the Great, am going to conquer God. It's my duty. I got the world into this mess. I have to get it out. Right, I've given it a lot of thought, and I've realised I have absolutely no chance of beating God. It was on the telly just now. We've only got 1 more hour to live before the hurricane gets here. Bugger. If anyone ever finds this diary, don't hate me. I just did what anyone would have done in my place. Well, what could I have done? I'm just Albert. One Albert against God.
44th chapter. Oh, yes.
Tee-hee, Derek said, reading it back aloud.
That is rather good. I wonder what God will think of it.
He died and went to heaven, carrying the story, and showed it to God, who read it.
It's not, very good, is it, Derek?
Well, I don't know. I thought it was.
Oh, well, you would, Derek. You see, writing is new to you. When you've been on the scene for a little longer, you'll realise that everything you write is bollocks, not worth its weight in shit. Frankly, to be frank, this story you have written is on the crap side of rubbish. Bollocks to you.
Oh, gee whiz. I really hoped that you'd like it. You see, I've decided to dedicate it to you, seeing as though you're my best friend.
Me? Your best friend? I'm not your friend. I despise you.
Oh, I see.
I've never liked you. In fact, I can quite easily say I don't even know you. Go away.
Oh, dear me, God. That is upsetting. I'm quite beside myself in sorrow.
Wait a moment. Did you say God?
Why, yes, I suppose I did. And what I was saying was...
No, you see, I'm not actually God. I'm his twin cousin twice removed, Arnold.
Oh, gosh. So that's why you were so horrid to me?
Yes, right you are, Derek.
And how do you know my name?
Oh, well, I guess I must have, magical powers of some sort.
Yes, that makes sense.
Oh, look, there's God.
Yes, well, goodbye then, Arnold.
Be seeing you.
Oh, God, there you are.
Oh, hello, Derek. How are you?
Yes. Dead. Anyway, guess what's just happened to me?
I don't know.
Go on, guess.
You've had a filling?
No, try again.
You took your camera to the beach and gave it to a passing otter.
Nope, go on.
You, set up a petition demanding that the 18th century should be put in a box.
No.
You tripped over an acorn, which turned out to be a tiny ocean made of dribble.
Oh, no.
You ate a paper rabbit and grew wings.
Oh, you'll kick yourself when I tell you. Go on.
Let me see. You caught a magic moth and were led into the bushes to go on trial for treason.
No, don't be daft.
Okay, you took a trip to...
And so it went on. God went through every possible combination of words and situations, and 36,961,123,592 years, 4 months, 2 weeks, a day, and 14 minutes later, he chanced upon the correct one.
Your feet turned into cheese and you left the country in a pink hot air balloon. No? You suddenly found you had an amazing talent for writing, you wrote a short story, died, and came up here to show it to me, whereupon you found my twin cousin twice removed, Arnold, whom I've never met or heard of, who you mistook as me, and showed it to him, whereupon he gave a harsh criticism of your work, although you finally discovered who he really was. Was that it, Derek? Am I right? Derek, wake up!
Oh, God. Oh, still guessing, are you? Oh, no, I'm getting fed up with this. You may as well give up. You'll never get it. I'll tell you. Oh, I've forgotten. Oh, I've got this story I'd like you to read.
He passed the story to God, who read it with haste.
Oh my, Derek, this story is... well, my.
You like it?
Without wishing to hurt your feelings, I'm going to say that it's very, 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 very interesting. Now piss off, I'm tired.
So Derek jumped off a cloud, somehow became alive again, and appeared in his garden.
Oh, dear me,
he sighed, as he had left his very, 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 very interesting manuscript in heaven. Right, there we go. That's it. Did you enjoy that?
Oh, yes, though I did find it rather emotional.
Oh, you did? Oh, well, that's great. No, I mean, I wanted some feedback.
But, I'm okay.
Yeah? Okay.
I'm okay.
Good, okay. Good. So that's, 30 years old now. 30 years old. I think it's aged quite well, actually, isn't it?
Yeah. I suppose so. I like how badly you acted the story.
Thank you. Well, I like how badly you wrote it.
Oh.
You know, Derek, your protagonist, Albert, doesn't make much sense. He's not stupid. Why doesn't he reverse the polarity on his amazing gadget and send the god hurricane back to heaven?
Oh, I hadn't thought of that.
Because he went to all the trouble of zipping it up in his pocket when he was falling.
Oh, that was a red herring. Surprise!
Well, that's an interesting twist.
It's why he's stupid. He doesn't realise how clever he is. He needs a nudge to be brilliant.
Oh, well, it seems tragic and unfair.
Well, that's just... well, it's...
All I'm saying is just maybe there's room for one final scene after he's done all that last diary entry bit and the hurricane is on the horizon.
No,
a resolution.
No, I think it's all right.
All right? It's a bloody global apocalypse, Derek. It's not all right, is it?
It's not real.
Oh, well, yeah.
But you want a happy ending?
I guess.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
You look tired.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really tired. The world does seem like this at the moment, doesn't it? Are you ready to go into your fun house?
Oh, always.
Okay. I'm going to stop this now.